welcome to the Culture and People Cast. Today we have Heidi Torres on. HR Heidi. Super stoked to have you on today. In a few sentences, would you tell us who you are and what you do?
So I am Heidi. I'm also known as HR Heidi, and I am the HR generalist for Heron HR consulting firm in the DFW area. I help connect businesses to their internal customers through HR solutions. And in my spare time, I give free job seeker and LinkedIn consultations, and I'm working on my upcoming book.
Oh, just making big stuff happen. I know. I love that you do those free consultations. Do you have sort of set times each week where you will offer those up to people?
I do. I actually have a whole little spreadsheet and everything, and then Calendly has block times that I set aside for people that they can pick and choose the time that fits within both our schedules.
Yes, I had to go to a similar sort of scenario because I get so many reach outs like, hey, do you have time? And you want to make time, but there's no way you can make time for all of LinkedIn. So good for you, Heidi. Okay, so you have been doing this people and culture work for quite a while and in many different ways, even now. What is your favorite part of this work?
Actually, just knowing that I can make an impact. So the whole reason I even got into HR was that I wanted to help people because people spend so much time at work and they said they were miserable. So I was like, how can we change that? There has to be a way to make that, where people aren't unhappy at work, right? And now people are wanting work, but they're not necessarily happy at work. So yeah, I actually work with different clients who want just that. They want to improve their business environment, and that's what we help them do.
Yes, awesome. Get better than we were today, right? That's all we can ever hope for. So I'm hearing from a lot of leaders, engaging talent is a challenge. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the biggest thing is, well, let me start off. My boss, Mallory Heron, she always said that not having a culture at work, it is a culture, just not the one that you want. Right? So culture engagement should be intentional, and it takes work. I mean, it really does. And especially with the pandemic, you got remote employees who, are love the convenience of zero commute, but they're getting Zoom fatigue. And, it's such a real thing. And then going stir crazy, right? Because they forget to make their breaks or take transitions and they're just on all the time. And then you have people who going on site and they're freaking out because they're afraid. They're afraid of being exposed to, the coronavirus. Both groups of people are feeling isolated.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a huge challenge on and keeping them engaged and keeping them safe.
So let's get tactical. What can a leader or even, an employee do to actually evolve their culture or help with their people practices?
Well, I think it starts with the leadership, first of all, or the HR team measuring it, right? So you need to have a baseline of what's going on, whether you're doing surveys, polls. You have to get your employee, you have to get their feedback. You need to ask them what's going on, what do they feel like, how. Ask them for what they think could be improved upon. I mean, it's not just like you're just coming up with your own magical solutions. A lot of times they have the solutions and you just need to reach out to them. And when you do these surveys, you find out actually which departments and which teams need what engagement, like what methods. So first of all, I think if you just look at the general basis of what it is, people want to find meaning in their work, right? And it doesn't matter if, and I thank God, right, for all the people in the front lines and responders, and they're doing important work. You could be a cashier at a store. You could be in a maintenance thing. Everyone wants to have meaning in their work. One of my favorite moments of in a book called Power of Moments. There's this janitor, he's mopping the floor. And so this man walks up to him and goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" And the janitor responds, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon." He worked at NASA, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's,
Love that.
it's meaning. So it doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you feel you are having a meaningful impact at what you're doing, right? So I think that's a big thing there.
But I think that's what happens in organizations is there's a disconnect. I I might know that essentially if I work at NASA, I'm helping put a man on the moon, which I firmly believe, but I'm rolling my eyes because I think some people do. But I don't think people really tie it to that highest level, right? I don't even know, even for me working in organizations where I could say, this is exactly what I'm doing. I would say, oh, I run this part of HR or whatever, right? We sort of contain ourselves with our job description. So
And that's where it gets lost, is not communicating what the company or what the firm is doing and who they're doing it for. I mean, the reason, the why, right? People talk about the why. The why is very important. And if you're working as a team, all the components from the top, bottom, on the middle, they're all working together. But you have to explain it. You have to tell your team, right? You have to share your team and the knowledge and what's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly. You got to share that. Without it, you don't have the meaning, you don't have the why, and then people are just kind of punching in the clock, and they don't understand, and that's where a big part of the engagement hits.
yeah. And, Heidi, I think asking them is such good advice. And also then communicating the why. I'm going to have to ask for you to share. Can you share your acronym for us? Because here's why I think it's so important for the individual contributor, because there's the employee out there that says, I'm not in charge of making sure everybody knows the why. I could argue differently, but maybe that's what they'll say. What can they do to build their own meaningful career where they're at and really make an impact?
So the acronym. So you're referring to the book that I'm writing on. My working title is The CEOs of Networking, which stand for Connecting, Engaging, and the Opportunity to Serve, right? So I I feel like during the pandemic, a lot of people lost their job, and they've been in that job for a long time, and they didn't know how to network. But all the research that I'm doing right now with talking to people like you and amazing people with amazing networks, they're talking about engaging, right? They're talking about not just networking for yourself, it is what you can do for others. How do you serve? How do you help? Those are the people that are making the connections,
Mm,
right? So when they're making this connection, those are the ones that are landing the jobs. And even within the same company, if you are connecting with others at your work, you are engaging with them, you are building your network, you are growing in your job. And those are the keys. And then so it's not what can you do for me, it's what can I do for you, right?
yes.
What can I do for you? And what things that happen for me will come. I mean,
Mm.
that's just, it's whether you call it karma, I don't know, you can call it whatever, but getting the positive energy out there, it comes back tenfold.
Do you remember that old phrase, good things come to those who wait? And that whole, and then I will add on when people say, oh, it'll happen. Just keep your head down and work hard. No, good
No.
things happen to people who work. Good things happen to people who work hard, but keep their head up and connect with other people and really, really want to make an impact where they're at, where
Yes.
they're at. You can smell that. You can feel that on them, right? Those are the people that are going to move up. So when people roll their eyes, oh, it's all about who you know, don't minimize that, right?
No.
It is about connections, because what you've done by building those connections, that 1, that 10, that 50 connections, is you have shown them who you are. You've given them your talent, right? You've said, this is who I am and here's what I have to offer. Now they know what you can do. Before, what do they have to go on? Nothing. So I think let's just like really up that, like keep focused, but like really that connection part is so key. I love that acronym and I can't wait to see what you do with it in your book.
I apologize.
That's okay. I love that acronym, Heidi. And I think what you're going to do with your book is so great. We could go on about engage and the opportunity to serve, but today I think our takeaway for individual contributors is really that connect, right? I always
It
think
is.
about it. I give the analogy of the hot air balloon, right? The hot air balloon being firmly tethered to the basket, right? Or you could be those cell phone balloons that are like wobbling outside and, they blow up every 5 seconds with the bursts of air. You want to be firmly rooted where you're at. So great, great advice. Heidi, let's do a shout out. Is there anyone else doing great work in the ring, as I like to say, or even maybe even as a potential guest?
The first person that comes to top of mind is Bruce Waller. He is, and I affectionately call him the Bruce of HR. So he actually has a podcast called Life in the Leadership Lane, and he actually has a book about that too. He was talking with Annie Carolla, and they were talking about mentors and unexpected places. So fantastic. I would definitely recommend that. And he's the founder of, I call it, well, it's a book group on Facebook, but it's more than a book group, called Climb. We were talking about earlier before this, I'm an entrepreneur, right? And I love on your TED Talks how you kind of talk about entrepreneurs. I am one of those. But my boss, Mallory Herring, she is the entrepreneur. She took her HR skills to the next level and started her own firm. And I admire her courage for that. So I recommend her. Really quick, talent acquisition leader, Michael Goldberg, Alchemy Technology, CHRO, Adrian Court, and career development coach, Summer Jelinek. All amazing people.
Wow, that's great. Great shout outs. And we will make sure we link to them in the show notes so that people can check out their profiles and potentially get connected. So last question for you, Heidi. What are some of your favorite resources that advance your thinking or others' thinking in terms of culture and people?
Well, I kind of already mentioned that one book, Power in the Moments, which is definitely a phenomenal read. Another book was Everybody Matters by Bob Chapman.
Yes. Do you love his
Right?
podcast too? Have you listened?
Yes. I've watched a couple. I haven't had the time to go through all of them because there's a lot of them, but I do like them. I was trying to think. Oh, Leaders and Loggers podcast, Kevin Dawson. He did like one of his podcasts was really awesome on a CEO of Girl Boss Sports, Sarah Wolfer.
Okay.
Really phenomenal. She was really good. Fanny Dunnigan. I love Fanny. She shares great tips on YouTube about LinkedIn and connecting also. So, and business leads, amazing person. I think those are probably my big ones. Oh, well, Julian Platino has been a great resource on branding. So we talking about HR Heidi. He kind of inspired me to do my personal branding, and I'd probably say Seth McCauley. He's a HR VP, and he also has a podcast, and he's just talked about 6 degrees. So talking about different connections and networking is really been a good resource.
Ooh, you are full of suggestions today. I love it. Well, we will make sure to link those in the show notes. And Heidi, I just really appreciate all you're doing for the world of people and culture in Heron HR, but also in a broader concept. So thank you for being a guest today. And I hope we stay in touch.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, peace and progress, everybody.